All right, and now there was this letter that made the rounds over the weekend, perhaps previously, said to have been signed by customs, and so a lot of people saw this letter. As you can see there, the heading of that letter, Intelligence on National Security, and signed by H.A. Sambo, Controller, Enforcement, HQ, for Deputy Controller General. It was dated August 20 and then signed on the 4th of September 2020 as well. So, but thereafter, after the letter made the rounds, it was trying to inform the Controller General. It says information reaching the Controller General of Customs reveals the existence of Boko Haram terrorist camps, BHTs, in and around the FCT. And then the second part says, further reports have it that they are planning to attack some selected targets within the territory. They are reported to have set up their camps in the following identified enclaves: Kunyam Bush along Airport Road off DIA Staff Headquarters, Abuja; Robochi, Gwagwalada Forest; Kwaku Forest, Kuje, Abuja; Uniasha Forest in total local government of Nasarawa State; Gegu Forest close to Idu Town in Kogi State. And consequently, you are to be at alert and security conscious of your environment at all times. Ensure wide circulation, please. Well, thereafter, the Army DHQ defense spokesperson responded, and yesterday the statement that was put out indicated their response and what they were going to do. Okay, perhaps we couldn't bring you what the Army did respond, but yes, they have said that they are going to ensure that that doesn't happen. But then earlier today, in some of the dailies, if you did catch some of them, Customs were saying that they're going to investigate that letter. So it raises a lot of questions concerning what's going on. What do you think is playing out? Well, we'll have someone who is in the security circle to shed some light on some of these matters. Mr. Dennis Amakri, former Assistant Director with the SSS. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Now, having seen this letter from Customs and the response from the Army, and then the Customs saying we're going to probe this letter, what do you think is playing out here?
This is really tiring, you know. This letter itself, I think, is not what the paper on which it is written on, you know. I think it's just a fluke. I tried to reach out to some of my contacts to find out who actually signed that letter. I was not able to reach them. But when you look at it, the letter itself, there are a lot of things wrong there. You know, it was not addressed to anybody. It was meant for internal circulation. And the list of people to be circulated to was not there, maybe on the next page, I don't know. But when it's not there. It's not there. So, number one, the heading is different from the body. The heading says Intelligence on National Security. That's not an intelligence, and that's not how intelligence reports are addressed or disseminated. Well, in the first paragraph, he said it's an information, which is okay. Yes, it might be an information. But, you know, we have to differentiate between information and intelligence. Intelligence is a processed information. But this particular one is saying it's an intelligence report on national security. At the same time, saying that it is information which is contradictory. But when you look at the body of the letter, you find out that actually they mention some places. That tells you that it is not actually processed, because if it is processed, those areas will be, should be confidential information that is not supposed to be on a letter distributed to everybody who might even be to Boko Haram itself.
So we can't assume that Customs have their own unique way of putting up such intelligence, different from maybe while you were in service, and that's perhaps the DMI, the Army, and the likes.
The channels are very clear. If custom has any kind of information around the border or any other place at all, they know where to channel it to. And they would have channeled it to the DSS directly. And then, of course, they will process it by trying to find out the veracity of those locations before, you start spreading it to everybody.
Well,
but, go ahead, please.
Just one moment. In the light of this letter, well, of course, even though you said it's a fluke, some people say there is no smoke without fire. But looking at the substance, if any, of this content, is it within the place of the DSS, the NCS Custom Service, to deal with such an issue as this, or is it out of their purview?
Well, that's what I mean. If they received information like this, they have to take it to the appropriate, because I don't know if the enforcement and intelligence unit of the custom is well equipped, to write on national security. They should have sent it to the appropriate. That's why we're saying that these security agencies should be synergizing. They should have sent it to the SSS. The SSS will know how to process it appropriately, and then, of course, act on it. And then, of course, there's important thing there. Whether the letter was of no value or not, I think it's of a very serious value. And that value is that it's a dot in the events of things. Even the SSS will not throw it away, because they have to go in and actually look at it. Like you said, there is no smoke without fire. So I think it calls for further investigations.
Now, for this kind of information to have gone out and signed by someone, and you say it's wrongly channeled, does that suggest some lapses in the system that need correcting, or is just one of those things that should be swept under the carpet?
It's a serious lapse. And then I think the security agencies, Immigration, Customs, and the NSCDC, all of them, the SSS itself, Army, should synergize and know how to manage security information.
Okay, now, this is really interesting. You talked about the need for synergy the other time, and this is a matter that's been talked about over and over again. The president has said it a number of times. Even the NSA has also mentioned this. For this to go out again, it would then suggest that maybe what the words of Mr. President aren't being taken seriously, and national security isn't given its due regard. Would you agree with those who think that?
I think there need to be review, and the National Security Advisor is in place to do that, because we still believe strongly that the Office of the National Security Advisor is supposed to be the clearinghouse for intelligence. And the President has given out his direction, and then from that direction, all the agencies should move appropriately in making sure that intelligence or information like this are usually channeled properly. Because the essence of this letter now, I don't know whether it's mischievously done to cause panic in the society.
But when some of them, the customs spokesperson is quoted to have said, look, that information was not meant for public consumption. And as such, perhaps if he hadn't, do we use the word leaks now in context of his own response, we may not have been discussing that subject matter today. So exactly. If it were not meant for public consumption and it was leaked, and if it didn't leak and it was circulated among security agencies, would anything have been wrong with it, the way the letter came through?
Yeah, because when you look at, like I told you, that letter is not what the paper on which it is written. The customs spokesman should go back to security school and learn. Ouch. Because when he say that it is not meant for public consumption, that letter was not classified. Usually, letters are classified in security circles. Either it's confidential, it's restricted, it's secret, or top secret. And now, that letter, there is no markings of any kind of classification on it. So, how can he say that it's not meant for public consumption? In fact, it is open. That means it is for public.
So if you say that this letter, I mean, what you said a little earlier, when you say that, the letter was probably released to cause panic, and the various agencies of government are supposed to be doing their jobs, the police, the DSS, the customs. I asked the question the other time who was in the place of the customs to do this. So if this letter was released, as you said, to cause panic, who should have stepped in?
Well, like the necessary agents have already moved in. The army has come out to say that everybody should calm down. They are going to investigate. The SSS is actually also looking at it. So the appropriate agencies will look at it. But for the customs, I think they have to do some house cleaning to make sure if this letter was actually properly, officially released, who it was released to, why is there no classification of that letter? These are things that they have to look at.
What if it was at the early stage, before it got to the classifications mapping stage, and then somebody just, the letter got out?
Then there's somebody's mischievous in there. And at least they have to start hunting for a mole in their office.
It's not the first time memos will leak, remember?
Oh, yeah.
So memos have leaked previously. Even classified memos have leaked.
Yes, that's why they need to all go back to school and learn how to protect official information.
Leading to the issue of electronic documents.
Yes.
When we talk about security, we talk about security in terms of carrying guns, giving information and all of that.
That's
to a large extent, that's what many people think. But
yes.
Now, as far as this is concerned, this is an electronic document leaked. Is there any way or anything we need to do differently when it comes to protecting electronic documents? Or
yes, of
security
course.
In the
yes, of course. Space? There are classifications. And, for physical documents, you can either stamp them to show this restricted, this confidential and stuff like that. Electronic documents, also have their own classification where access, that will be on the level of access that it will have. So if it is not for public consumption, certain people are not going to see them, and only those who are classified to see it will see it.
Listening to the reactions of a lot of Nigerians, and even some of the ones you have put this morning, it might discourage the Nigeria customs from playing an active role, really, in this fight, because, the government says time and again that security is everyone's responsibility. And if you look at the functions of the NCS, you see that it includes, and it's not limited to anti-smuggling activities and security functions. So we need the NCS, really, in this fight, this insecurity fight. So don't you think this might discourage them, hearing the response from people?
No, it's not going to discourage them. Trying to do things right does not mean that you are being discouraged. So if there is some elements in the custom trying to be mischievous, I think their head, who is even a former military man, should know. How do you send out a letter that is not classified, and you say they should distribute it? Or was it sent out before the classification stage? These are all things that they have to investigate and continue doing the good job they are doing. It's not something for them to be discouraged about.
So you think that the process has tainted the purpose, which I think there might also be a danger of looking away from, because clearly there's a security threat. In fact, the DHQ has said, well, we're looking at this purported letter, people should go about their duties, we're doing our job. But don't you think that might also taint the purpose of this?
Well, the thing is that, like I said, this particular letter cannot just be discarded. It's a dot, like we call in security circles. It's a dot that needs to be connected to something else. And then, of course, it's not too far-fetched where they say that there are elements of either bandits or Boko Haram hanging around or infiltrating certain areas. But it brings more work for the security people to do now, where they have to investigate and see whether they will make meaning out of it.
How do you suggest residents of those areas connect the dots in this case? Because they've seen this and they will think, oh, wait a minute. Well, yes, the army may have put up a notice, but I'm going to be cautious as well.
Yes, they need to be cautious, and then they need to also open their eyes and say, look, they said something is happening around here. Maybe we should look around, and then if there is actually something there, then we inform the security agencies about it.
But will the statement from the army suffice?
Of course, they are saying that everybody should keep calm, which is true. We don't want panic.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they are going to investigate it.
But in the meantime, if residents don't see boots on the ground, are they going to rely on press statement they saw, some may not have even seen it?
Well, there are many ways of verifying information like that. You don't put boots down there and start looking around those neighborhoods that were mentioned there. People will start to even panic more.
But you know the way they say the show of force. When they do the show of force, and then to show people, okay, well, what's wrong with that principle as well?
No,
applying
that
in this
principle
case?
actually does not work very well.
Not even show of confidence.
Yeah, because it could pass, and then, of course, the people will continue doing what they want to do.
Okay, all right. So we're hoping that at least it will just be something that they'll just dismiss with a wave of hand, and not any reason to panic, as the army has said that they will go ahead and protect the people. But we do thank you for your time and your thoughts this morning. Mr. Dennis Omakere, former Assistant Director with the SSS.
Thank you very much for having me.